don't mean to be that guy, but honestly,
It was perfect. Perfect. Everything, down to the last minute details.
season 1 of Andor is finally finished, and I have finally finished it, so let's talk about it. Hi, I'm Kirk Hill, and in case you don't know, I am a huge Star Wars fan, and I am just super surprised at how great season 1 of Andor was. After the lukewarm reception to both the Book of Boba Fett and Obi-Wan Kenobi, I really wasn't looking forward to Andor. And it was beginning to look like The Mandalorian was an anomaly, and maybe live action Star Wars shows just don't work. And all of a sudden, Andor just took everybody by storm with that amazing trailer. I couldn't make this all fit in the shot, but isn't he just so cute? Oh, thank you, Phil, for the Christmas gift. This is lovely. My little Grogu. I love a good trailer, and this one just showed out. I mean, it felt like it was a movie instead of a show. The production value was a huge step up from Obi-Wan Kenobi, and it was amazing to see how enthralling the world of Star Wars felt again, and how real the threat of the Empire was. A big surprise for me personally was seeing Mon Mothma return and that brief shot of her in the Senate room. I mean, I'm delighted that Genevieve O'Reilly was brought back to play her, and it's so essential to bridge the prequel trilogies and the original trilogy. But enough about trailers. Let's get into the show itself. To start with the positives, I'm really glad that it was 12 episodes instead of 6, because it really felt episodic in that way and allowed for more time to get to know our main characters, most of which are brand new. Of those characters, my favorite by far is Luthen. Stellan Skarsgård is a tremendous actor, and I've loved him in almost every role he's in. And it might be biased because I'm a Star Wars fan, but he's never been as compelling or captivating as he is when he plays Luthen. You feel the burden he carries by playing his role in the rebellion. He knows who he is and exactly what he must do in order to fight the Empire. His resolve is something to be at once admired and be sympathetic to. Even when he doubles as an antiques dealer, Skarsgård just amps up the charm and plays that role really well and just effortlessly flows in and out of those two sides of his character. My second favorite by a very close margin is none other than Mon Mothma. I never believed I would care this much about a character who's seen no more than 10 minutes of screen time in her few appearances, but I love her journey. Privileged, but fair and righteous. Mon is torn between knowing what's right morally and knowing what immoral things one might have to do in order to get to that moral righteousness. A conflict that Luthen clearly does not share, and I love that contrast between the two characters. It's what makes them stand out. My other favorites were Mosk, Deidre, the droid B2, and most pleasantly surprising were Marva and Kino Lloyd. Now, Marva is played by Fiona Shaw, and because I'm so used to her being Aunt Petunia from Harry Potter and she played her so well, I just automatically dislike her and like everything she's in. But here she is wonderful. She plays a loving, empathetic, and virtuous mother whose death at the end of the season is a turning point for both her people, for the rebellion, and for Andor himself. All her scenes are moving, and I wish she was in more. Similarly, Kino Loy was the biggest surprise, mainly because he was played by the great Andy Serkis, who I had no idea was even cast in the show. Having previously portrayed Snoke, he's given a chance here to just play an ordinary human character, and he's absolutely heartbreaking as a man who's struggling to hold on to some sense of identity while also being imprisoned. His whole life is built up of getting up and out, and when he has his whole worldview shattered, he then becomes devoted to making the ultimate sacrifice to free his fellow imprisoned people, even though it's implied that he doesn't make it out himself. Circus's monologue would be my favorite moment from the entire show, if not for Luthen's equally impressive monologue in that same episode. I mean, just great acting from both Circus and Skarsgård. One major character I didn't talk about yet is Andor himself, and there's a reason for that. My first criticism, if you even want to call it that, is that Cassian isn't really that compelling of a lead to me. I have no real problem with the character or even Diego Luna, but it just feels like he's very passive in the first half of the season. And even in the later episodes when he's in the prison and becomes a much more active protagonist, he's outshined by Andy Serkis. And he's outshone in almost every episode of the show. I know he has a growth arc through the show and that he's the through line of the show. But honestly, I was getting to a point where I felt like the show should just be called Rebellion instead of Andor, because all the other scenes just stood out to me more. Like, I just liked them more. And honestly, if Cassian wasn't in the show, I wouldn't have liked it any less, which is not something you want to say about your lead character. And there's nothing really other than his origin and what leads to him. There's nothing in this show that makes me like Cassian more than I did in Rogue One. But I appreciate his journey as a character. Forrest Whitaker returns briefly as Saw Gerrera, and while it was an improvement, I still don't really care for his portrayal of him. I love Saw way more in animation. It's just something about his voice and his mannerisms that just irk me. I don't know. I can't explain it. And one negative I had that turned out to be not so negative was the absence of K2SO. I had joked before the show came out that I wouldn't watch it if K2 wasn't in it. But I didn't really miss him that much. And that's just a testament to how good the show is, that it doesn't really need his presence. And K2 was one of the funnier characters in Rogue One anyway, so it doesn't really fit the tone of Andor. What works best about the show is the scope of it, really. And I mean that in every sense of the word, not just visually in the amount of planets shown and the look in the camera and the way it captures everything, but like in the heart of the characters, you get a sense of how the entire galaxy operates. I mean, you get the nature and simplicity of Cassian's home world. You get the everyday working man life of Ferrix. You have the hierarchy and the classism and the sexism of the Empire and the politics of how the IBF itself runs in the Empire. And then you have, the beauty of Aldani. You have the working life, like the office, style of, not like the show, but I mean like an office, like working office, like cubicle lifestyle, with Cyril in his new job that his uncle gets him. And then you have, you get the high class, rich lifestyle of Coruscant, with Mon Mothma, and certainly with her husband and her friend and her daughter. There's even a nightclub style in the very first episode, and that's just a level of world building that I haven't seen since the prequels, and that just comes down to the writing. Tony Gilroy has truly pulled off an amazing feat, making the show stand out and far exceeding the expectations of anybody that was watching. And he deserves a tremendous amount of praise and credit for that. He makes this galaxy feel full and alive, which is what Star Wars should be. Where every character matters and everything holds weight and there's tension. If there was any one theme that I could give to this show, it's sacrifice. Every character just about put something on the line in this show, which instantly raises the stakes, and it makes us care as an audience. And you know a show is good when you care about the heroes and the villains. I mean, I care about Cyril. I sympathize with Deidre, and that's powerful. That's great writing. I mean, there's even a complexity among the rebels where not everybody is this righteous and virtuous hero. I mean, you already have Luthen and Vel and Saw, of course. And the representation of color and representation for women in this show is probably better than anything in Star Wars ever. I mean, look at this list of women. You have Deirdre, Marva, Bix, Vel, Mon, Cinta, Clea, and more. I'm sure I'm leaving somebody out. And that's just amazing. It just gives us, these young girls, young fans, like new role models to look up to. And that's awesome. I honestly can't think of anything else to say. I mean, this just was a success all around. I'm super pumped for the next season. And I just can't wait to see how it ties us back up into Rogue One. But please give me some K2 in season 2. I was lying. I do miss that guy. Bring him back. Thank you so much for watching. And if you like my content, please feel free to like, comment, subscribe, notifications, all that. And click here somewhere to check out my YouTube journey if you're interested. See you next time. Going into it, I was naturally skeptical. It's my cat. Sorry. Be quiet or I'm gonna kick you out.